This day in sports history. It's February 14th, and on this day we had a massacre in the boxing ring. Eddie the Eagle sort of took flight. And did Larry Legend actually play an entire game shooting only with his left hand? Those stories and an answer to that question, plus why did Michael Jordan wear number 12 on this day? That's all coming your way right after this. So it's Valentine's Day, a day for love, flowers, a nice dinner out, letting that special someone know how much they mean to you. Unless you were, say, on the wrong side of Al Capone in 1929, or you were Jake LaMotta stepping into the ring in Chicago Stadium with Sugar Ray Robinson on this day in 1951. This was the 6th time that these two had fought each other, and it would turn out to be the final one. Robinson had won the first fight. LaMotta gave Robinson his first professional loss in fight number 2 in 1943. Sugar Ray responded by winning the 3rd, 4th, and 5th editions, but in all that time, Robinson had not been able to put LaMotta on the mat. In fact, in his 95 professional fights to this point, LaMotta had never been knocked down. This was also a fight of guys in different weight classes. LaMotta was fighting as the heavier middleweight title holder, and Robinson held the belt as the lighter welterweight. LaMotta could have fought as a heavyweight a few weeks prior, though. He'd been a little overindulgent since his previous fight, and he had to drop 16 pounds, barely making the 160-pound limit for the fight by dropping the final 6 the night before. So this was a battle for LaMotta's middleweight title belt. And with the previous success that Sugar Ray had against LaMotta, he came in as a 3.5-to-1 favorite. LaMotta came out blazing, though, and through the first 8 rounds, he was up on 2 of the 3 judges' cards. In the 9th round, though, Sugar Ray turned the tables and started pounding the Bronx Bull. By the 10th, a sharp right jab closed LaMotta's eye. By the 11th, LaMotta had virtually punched himself out and lowered his defenses. Robinson continued to pound the Bull with punch after punch after punch, finding some part of LaMotta's jaw with each one of them.
Robinson is merciless, keeps looking at the clock. No man can endure this pummeling. LaMotta is just a catcher with a half a minute to go, mouth wide open, left eye bleeding.
And yet, he kept on taking him. By the 12th, Robinson's corner was pleading with the referee to stop the fight to save LaMotta from more punishment. But still, the fight continued into the 13th.
2 minutes to go, round 13. LaMotta at this moment, a tired battler, a chopping block. Robinson trying to KO him. For 8 rounds, LaMotta gave better than he took. And then Robinson unleashed all of his best guns for the last 4 rounds. These are clean, whistling shots, lefts and rights. How he can survive them, nobody knows. Head shake at the ringside. The fight is going to be stopped on the signal from the chairman of the Illinois Athletic Commission, Joe Schreiner, to Frankie Sikora. The fight was stopped in the 13th round.
The fight became known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the 2nd edition, and although it was purely theatrical, the Robert De Niro line from the LaMotta biopic Raging Bull, "You never got me down, Ray," was in essence true. Despite losing 5 of the 6 fights with Sugar Ray and the tremendous beating he took on this night in 51, he never got put down on the mat. On this day in 1988, Eddie the Eagle took flight. Kinda. His name was Michael Edwards. His friends called him Eddie, and on this day he competed in the normal hill ski jumping event at the 1988 Calgary Olympic Games. He was the first to ever represent Great Britain in ski jumping. As a teenager, Eddie fell in love with skiing and he dreamed of being a downhill ski racer, but that did not work out so well for him, so he decided to give ski jumping a try. Now, he did have a few things going against him. One, he was completely self-funded. Britain had no infrastructure for Olympic ski jumping and had no interest in supporting one. Still, Eddie went to Lake Placid, New York, and he trained. Now, secondly, ski jumpers are typically much lighter. By the time he showed up in Calgary to compete, he was at least 20 pounds heavier than any of the other competitors. And his eyesight was not great, forcing him to wear thick glasses to correct his vision. And of course, glasses tend to fog up when you put goggles over the top of them. And that is kind of a detriment when you're flying down a ski jump ramp and then take flight looking for a place to land. But despite all those limitations, Eddie pushed on. He qualified for the Olympics through a loophole, which at the time said if you were the only representative from your country in your sport, you could compete whether you were good or not. So on this day, Eddie became Eddie the Eagle. He skied down the normal hill twice, took flight for 2 1/4 seconds each time, landed on 2 skis for a distance of 55 meters each time, and finished last. His combined score for the 2 jumps on this day was 69.2. The next closest competitor had 140 points. The gold medalist was Finland's Matti Nikkanen, who had a total of 229 points. But everybody remembered the last place finisher on this day for the everyman courage and the chutzpah to pursue the dream and compete on the highest level.
Well, it was a dream for me to get to those Olympic Games, and I made my dream come true by getting there, and it was a fantastic experience. It was very nerve-wracking, jumping in front of 89,000 people in Calgary and in front of the billions of people around the world on television. But being christened Eddie the Eagle, they really took me to their hearts, and they really appreciated my efforts at the Calgary Olympics, and to the extent where I'm still busy 25 years later. So it was really nice. I loved it. I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was absolutely fantastic, and if I could do it all over again, I would do exactly the same.
But while Eddie's story inspired a lot of people, the Olympic folks were not enamored with his story, and they worked quickly to close that loophole that Eddie had exploited. After the Calgary Games, the Olympic Committee changed the rules for qualification, saying that you had to have competed in international events and been placed in the top 30% or top 50 competitors. That rule effectively barred anybody else following the path that Eddie took to take flight on this day in 1988. On that same day in 1992, 2,700 miles away in Daytona, Florida, the Daytona 500 came down to a father-son duel with Bobby Allison holding off his son Davey to take the checkered flag. But this race is known more for what happened on lap 104. Richard Petty was bumped from behind by Phil Barkdahl. He spun and then barrel rolled 8 times against the front stretch catch fence. The CBS race coverage was in commercial when the wreck started, but broke back in with Petty's car cartwheeling down the tri-oval.
Bad trouble.
Okay, a terrible crash. Richard Petty's car has turned over 7 or 8 times coming off turn 4 and was just struck by another car. It's one of the most violent accidents we've ever seen at the Daytona International Speedway here as leader Darrell Waltrip squeezes through. Petty's car nosed into the wall and then went sideways and barreled end over end and then side over side time after time. A terrible accident involving the man who has won this race 7 times over the years.
Petty survived the horrifying crash with a broken right ankle as his only injury. This was the first Daytona 500 where restrictor plates were used in an attempt to slow the cars down, but that also created tightly packed racing that many believe led to the horrific accident. Things settled down after that, and it led to the memorable finish.
He's got less than half a lap to do.
And they have enough lead. I believe this is going to be a battle between the father and son. I don't think anybody else can try it, but here he comes. He's going to do
the
it.
Bottom. He's down low. Bobby Allison high. Davey Allison trying the inside move. Bobby Allison holds him off. They come to the stripe, and the winner of the 30th annual Great American Race, Bobby Allison. Davey Allison, his son, in second. Judy Allison ecstatic. What a tremendous family performance.
A 1-2 father-son finish was a special day for the Allison family. It was Bobby's 3rd Daytona 500 win, and it was his last Winston Cup win of his career. On this day in 1986, Larry Bird played a game that rests between truth and mythology. This became known as Larry's left-handed game, in which he said he was going to shoot with his weaker left hand to save his dominant right for the LA Lakers, who were next up on the schedule. It was Larry being Larry, and Larry having some fun midway through the regular season grind. The Boston Celtics were on the road at Portland on this night. The Blazers were a middle-of-the-pack team on a 4-game losing streak. The Celtics were the best team in the East and winners of 14 of their last 15. They were also in the middle of a 7-game West Coast swing with the Lakers and the Suns coming up in the days following this one. And, yeah, Larry did start the game off shooting with his left hand.
Paratrooper caught for Kersey, 2 points for Bird.
That was a great shot.
I mean, made it look easier. He shot that with the left hand, underhander, and made it look simple.
But the myth is that he played the entire game shooting with his left. Instead, 10 of the 34 shots he took on this night were with his left, which is still pretty cool, especially since he made most of those. Of course, with the game on the line in overtime, he took the final shot with his right.
Game clock, top of your screen. Larry Bird with 3 seconds left. Timeout for Portland. 47 points for Larry Bird.
And that does put a little pressure.
As you just heard, Bird scored 47, he grabbed 14 rebounds, and he handed out 11 assists in a 120-119 win for the Celtics. But Bird said, in retrospect, maybe he should have played more of the game with his right hand.
Some night it goes in, some night it don't. That night it happened to work out. But if I remember correctly, we won that game in overtime by like 1 point. So, you know, I probably should have shot with my right hand the whole game.
2 nights later, Boston was in LA, and his well-rested right hand scored 22 in a win over the Lakers. And in 1990, Michael Jordan wore number 12 for the only time in his professional basketball career.
6'6" for North Carolina, number 12, Michael Jordan.
So why was Michael wearing number 12 on this night? Well, his Bulls were in Orlando to play the Magic. Before the game, someone went into the Bulls locker room and swiped Jordan's number 23 jersey. No spare 23 was available, so Sam Vincent lent him his number 12 practice jersey, which did not have a name on the back of it. Jordan scored 49, but the Magic won the game in OT 135-129. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. You've seen those recipes on the back of cans and boxes, right? Well, the first ever recipe to appear on the back of a Campbell's soup can was in 1960, when a recipe for tomato soup cake was printed on the label. Now, tomato soup cake originated around the 1920s, and it grew in popularity as wartime restrictions and then later the Great Depression caused a shortage or an escalated price of produce, such as tomatoes. So folks improvised with cheaper versions. But maybe you should leave that recipe on the shelf. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.